Welcome back to Ride the Stream. We are here continuing our Lord of the Rings conversation, celebrating the 25th anniversary of Fellowship of the Ring. I am joined always by my dearest of friends, podcasting partner in crime, Michele. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Glad to be back. We had wardrobe changes, didn't we?
It was required.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, I'm
our
just excited to talk again, revisit uh, Fellowship of the Ring, or
yeah.
continue our exploration of it for the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, it was a really fun first chat. It makes me appreciate what we do, like chatting about movies and TV that we're fond of, or just exploring new stuff together. It's a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we're back. We'll see if we finish up in this video. Who knows? We might have a we might need a part three. Um, but I know our first video, we're just kind of generally talking about the movie as a whole,
Mhm.
some of the visuals, some of the scenes. Um, I have a huge list of scenes that I've notated, and just was thinking of maybe picking your brain about the scene and seeing your overall thoughts about maybe how it was produced and
Mhm.
overall emotion that you get from the scene. Um, And I know last time we focused a lot on the initial scene with Gandalf after Bilbo leaves and he can't touch the ring, and
Mhm.
Frodo's all about, and just the whole, you know, it's like you feel the essence of the room. It's like you're right there in it. Um, so if we were to extend that scene just a little bit, uh, and just talk about how this film also introduces humor, where there's rustling in the brush outside the window,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Gandalf tells Frodo to get down, and he just goes out on the floor, and he pokes his stick outside, and Samwise Gamgee's eavesdropping, and um, like, what does a scene like that do? I think for this movie because it's so epic in the visuals, the vocal delivery, the facial expressions. Um, yeah, what did you think of like that added piece to such a after such a serious discussion about the ring?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we see in many of the shows and movies that we watch is that you've got to have some humor that helps to kind of relieve tension um, with your viewing experience and what you're kind of processing. I think you also can deliver a lot of content through humor. That sometimes when you get so tensed up and you're so focused that sometimes other things get missed. Um, so I do like the humor. I was thinking in the last couple of days of kind of in anticipation of continuing our conversation was just how much um, this movie was really a setup for the two to follow. And I'm sorry, I got cat hair. Yeah, who would have figured? Oh, just a little tickly. Um, but just how much this movie set up the other characters. Like, I hadn't seen the movie in quite a while, so for me, I was thinking, oh, we really didn't see a lot of Legolas. We really didn't see a lot of, this character or that character. And I realized that it was really a setup movie, really like this really long, epic establishing of a story that continued and deepened and was more examined and explored in the second and the third movie. And I think that this scene even though, we'd seen Samwise a little bit and we saw a little bit of Banner, we also see in this scene just how much Sam cares about Frodo and the very special relationship that they have. They have a deep friendship. They care about each other. Samwise also seems to be protective of Frodo. And I don't recall if Frodo and Samwise are about the same ages or if one's a little bit older than the other, that we almost have a brotherly protective relationship going on. That's also got the friendship of the banter, oh, when are you going to ask her out? She really likes you and things like that. Um, but I think it really does go to show that, Samwise does care about Frodo. They're friends.
Yeah.
And, he is concerned about his friend because Bilbo has been acting strange. Frodo's kind of picking up on that. There's probably, the blossoming of adulthood and, well, what are you doing with the rest of your life? There's a lot of context in this scene that kind of sets up that it's like anytime when we hit that point when we're at the cusp and we could go in all these different directions. I know we can at any time in our lives, but it really is kind of like when you're in your early 20s or, even like right after high school and you're thinking, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? The rest of life that you're thinking, is going to exist to maybe 30. You can't possibly think beyond 30, right?
Yeah.
And so I do feel like, you know, well, if Frodo's got something going, Samwise doesn't want to miss out, or um, they've been best buds all this time, that it's not a surprise that if Frodo is going off somewhere, that Samwise would also want to take that adventure too. Um, I think it should, I think that scene really opens up and shows the depth of that friendship. And that's the first time that we see it. And just how, and we'll see it later, obviously, in this movie, just to the extent that Samwise will go because he does have that deep friendship with Frodo. Um, to the point of he'll swim when he can't really swim.
I
Um,
was I was
yeah,
going right there with you. Like
yeah.
that I was as you were describing their relationship and Sam's, love for Frodo, like they truly care about each other. At the end, Sam, is willing to drown to be by Frodo's side.
Hmm.
And he says that he made Gandalf a promise that he'd never leave your side. But I don't
Hmm.
even think he would have to promise. I think he'd be there just like he was in the bushes, making sure Frodo was okay. Like he just wants to be there for him. And I think you're spot on. They have this like kinship that's like
Hmm.
impossible to break. And like you said, it sets up everything we've seen between them in the next two films.
Yeah, and I think it's also a good comparison with the other two uh
Merry and
hobbits.
Pippin,
Yeah, the fact that they've got their kind of relationship, friendship going on, um, that seems to be a bit more comical. They might have the same depth of a relationship that Samwise and Frodo have, but what we're seeing is, a real focus on Frodo and Samwise because they're the main ones, right? Versus Pippin and Mary, who have their friendship and they like to get into mischief. They are mischief makers,
yeah.
and they kind of fit together. they're probably a little bit younger, so they're still in the, hey, let's do this. This will be fun type of thing versus Frodo and Samwise that I think, they might be just a couple of years older or something, so they're
They
uh
definitely act like it.
they do. Yeah. But I was also thinking at the same time, they're each individual. They are their own person too. Like Samwise likes food, so he has a kinship with Merry and Pippin because they're all about food. Versus Frodo, who's kind of like he's more, I'm gonna say almost more spiritual in a way. Um, it's almost like they each have, I liken it to like if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and you've got your mage, you've got your fighter, you've got your thief, you got these different kind of archetype roles. And I really feel like the four of them um, kind of fit into different archetypes. So I like that you kind of got that mini set, amongst the hobbits versus
Yeah.
what you see among mankind, and then with the fairies and just all the different that even though you basically have archetype groups, then you have archetype individuals. And I
Yeah.
just like the depth that Tolkien went with creating this world, and then how Peter Jackson really kind of follows that blueprint and helps us in a cinematic way have that same sort of experience. And I think, that's a real good scene because it's really setting up friendships, and the hobbits, the mages, mankind, the evil presence, and things like that. So you're starting out on your hero's journey, and it's starting to develop all the different players. So that's, to me, I think it's Frodo obviously right in the center, and then you've got Gandalf there, who's kind of the mentor, and then you got Samwise who's the sidekick and companion. So you start bringing in these and you start adding layers. And so I feel like that's one of the first layers that we see that really brings in and establish this squad of people, the fellowship of the ring that's going to occur further into the movie.
Yeah, and as you're like kind of describing the subsets, I was thinking of that scene with them all at the council meeting where they're trying to figure out what to do with it, and Frodo volunteers, um and this movie, like going along with your the setup for films 2 and 3, it's like their fellowship is more of like them learning to trust one another,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like some of the people who joined were, joining for maybe not the like Legolas joins, and
Mm-hmm.
then Gimli's like, "Oh no, you don't. You got my axe. No elf's gonna like outdo a dwarf." And Boromir's kind of like he wants the weapon to save Gondor, but he kind of like, well, I guess if this is what you all want, I will join. So there's almost like this uh very thin connective tissue holding the group together. And, we obviously know that Boromir's most tempted by the ring, and Frodo falls and he's holding the ring in the snow. And that scene, not that I believe Legolas and Gimli show that they're that susceptible to the ring's power. Um, but it almost just kind of highlights how tenuous the group
Mm-hmm.
is about staying together. Because in that scene, Frodo falls, Boromir's just like staring at it, and he almost like grabs it and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, Strider has to like shout his name for him to like snap out of it.
Hmm.
But you see, he's got his hand on the hilt of his sword, like
Hmm.
ready to like do what he needs to do if Boromir goes crazy. And do you think that for the most part, watching this movie, you were waiting for that shoe to drop? Like you were waiting for the Fellowship to kind of like fail in some way because you had these little moments of like even like in the bar scene where Mary or Pippin is outing Frodo's name, like, oh, Frodo Baggins is right. I mean, so there's like these little moments that happen along the movie that make you wonder, like, did you have like that sense of pending doom, like something was gonna bad was gonna happen?
A little bit. I think with Mary and Pippin, they I feel like they're the comic relief, so they don't seem to quite get the gravity of the adventure that they are on. Like they're just kind of bumbling through it, and it's kind of like, yeah, you do kind of wonder, like, why are they there? Because they don't seem to really help things along. I mean, they build a fire that is like a big beacon to the wraiths. Hey, come find, we're here. Come on by.
Yeah.
We're just tucking in. And, you know, uh, yeah, it, I was kind of waiting because you started out with some tensions, even at like you were saying, when they had their fellowship meeting, um, yeah, there was already tensions. Boromir, there was tensions, of him. Well, the ring should go to him and Gandor, versus Legolas, who was, yes, I agree to go, you know, versus Gimli, who had his own reasons. Well, I represent, versus Boromir and Aragon or Strider, their own conflicts, representing mankind.
Yeah.
Um, and even Gandalf not wanting to touch the ring made you wonder, wow, this ring is very powerful and succumbing to it. I don't, I think the mystique of the ring even comes out of the screen because I liken that to, or I make that distinction because when the movie came out, how many of us wanted a copy of that ring, you know, to be able to wear, to, kind of have as a badge of, I love the story, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean the power of the ring but getting back to the movie, yes, I was waiting kind of for the shoe to drop, but at the same time, it felt like things were for the most part coming together, but then you think, okay, we're going on. Everybody's fighting together. Everybody's moving together. Oh God, now we don't have Gandalf. Well, now you start seeing the little veneer starting to break off. You start getting these little chips that are flying off, and it it's like you begin to understand begrudgingly that the fellowship was only to go so far.
Yeah.
It needed to take the group to this point, and then it needed to split off. I was crushed at the end of the movie because I was like, oh my gosh, now we're just starting to come together as a group, and now everybody's going in different directions.
Yeah.
And that was really hard emotionally to realize that, well, now it's just Frodo and Samwise. Now it's Merry and Pippin have been taken by the orcs. Boromir is dead. Legolas, Gimli, and Aragon are on their own thing. And it became very fragmented so quickly,
Yeah.
and broke apart so quickly. Um, yeah, that was crushing at the end to realize the group couldn't stay together. But I mean, that's part of good storytelling.
Yeah, and at the end, like I guess before the fight scene, um, Frodo is talking to oh, Kate Blanchett's character. I'm
Oh,
spacing,
oh,
but like she tells him like to be a ring bearer.
Galadriel, Galadriel,
Oh yeah, Galadriel, I think.
Galadriel.
Yeah, I think Galadriel,
Yeah.
maybe. Um, but she tells him, to be a ring bearer means that to be alone, and if he can't do it, no one else can. But that scene at the end, even knowing that, like you said, it is crushing knowing that he's making that decision to leave. And I think when I first saw this in theater the first time,
Mm-hmm.
I I think for the briefest of moments, I was like, is Sam gonna drown? Like, I I don't know. I think that was maybe dumb on my part to believe that he'd be let. But I mean, Boromir had just died,
Yeah.
and I think the way they've told this story on film is it's hard to say anything is its equal. But I mean, just like it makes me wonder, um, could my vantage point change at all with more watches? But I've seen this movie so many times,
Mm-hmm.
and it it still hits you in the gut when he makes that decision, and
Mm-hmm.
he's sitting on the edge of the river or standing there and he's playing the conversation with Gandalf over in his head, and he's got tears coming down his eyes knowing that he has to be on his own, but it's what what they choose to do with the time they have.
Mm-hmm.
um and yeah, after all the times I've watched that movie, I mean, I've probably I don't want to guess how many times. It's a lot, but it doesn't feel any less real, if that makes sense. Like the emotions behind it, and I mean, that's really a testament to not only the cast. I mean, obviously the director and everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
The music that plays in the background. It just feels so grand, and I don't think watching this movie I could have ever imagined the group separating, because it feels like, oh, it should work out. It should be okay because that's the way things should work, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, so, and like you said at the beginning, it sets up so much
Mm-hmm.
for the second movie and into the third. Not only relationships, but what we believe characters are capable of because what they do at some point in this film.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I think what's nice too, I was just thinking about even Mary and Pippin, the fact that I hadn't thought about it, but I feel like every character really has their own hero's journey, which I think is really hard to pull off normally in epic story. I'm Nick and I just went and saw Ray Harryhausen exhibit down in Tucson. And one of the movies that we watched recently was Clash of the Titans. And, that's epic. You've got your Greek gods and things like that. And that has to have had some sort of influence with Tolkien. I don't have a lot of background with what his influences were. So, if I'm completely ignorant, that's my caveat. Um, but in that story, it's pretty much focused on one person's hero's journey. And the fact that Tolkien was able to write in and intertwine all these heroes' journeys when he did, and then to have them realized, because this is prior to George R. R. Martin writing the Game of Thrones series, and all that he's been able to do. I would say that he's a contemporary to Tolkien, being able to do that kind of writing, and then have it translate so well to the screen, which is also very challenging to do. You
Yeah.
only have a certain amount of time versus the time that we invest in reading the books, for instance. Um, you know, books are going to take a lot longer than 9 hours to read.
Yeah. I yeah, I think this movie, I mean, people could probably say what's different from the books and all that stuff, but
Mhm.
I don't know. The essence of the film just feels so genuine for the characters that we get on screen. And I'm trying to look through some of the other scenes.
Well, I will
Eh,
say about that, I think what helps, and I think we touched on this in the last episode, is the decision by Jackson to basically film these back to back so that you had consistency. I mean, this was a commitment for like
yeah,
um, you know, the actors that were the main ones that were throughout all three. I mean, I think this was like 18 months of filming. So you do get to know each other and the chemistry, does tighten. I don't know how Jackson actually, did um his shot schedule, whether it was in sequence or if he was doing a lot of different things, probably a lot of different things and then edit it together. But just the fact that there was that kind of commitment, I think, I don't know, I'm not an actor, but I would think that if you know on paper that you're going to be doing this for the next 18 months, there's a commitment there at a level that you don't get when you have a movie that's going to be shooting for a month, maybe a couple months.
yeah,
So when you're shooting that movie for a couple months, you've got chatter about, oh, this is my next gig, this is my next gig and stuff. And I think when you're doing something for like 18 months, there may be a little bit of that, but it really is like kind of drowned out by the fact that your focus is so into this movie that you're doing for, or a series of movies that you're doing for this X period of time. And I think that helps. I think that that gives a different level of investment that you might not otherwise have. And that's not to disparage other actors in movies because there is good acting in lots of movies out there that are, different. This one is this way, and it did it a different way from a lot of other movies out there. And
yeah,
I think that level of commitment shows in this film. I think that's where I think that helps to authenticate and give a genuineness to what we as viewers get to see on the screen and what resonates with us long after we've seen the end credits. Um, every time I watch it, like you, I'm impacted in so many ways, and you see different things throughout, and you have different readings. Um, we as individuals, what we bring as an audience member changes every time. You said that you've seen it many, many times, and I'm sure that every time you've seen it, you've seen something different or you felt something different because every moment. we're not the same person that we were the moment before. We've got different experiences that are, come in. We're in a different frame of mind mentally and emotionally. So the fact that this film is able to resonate on a consistent basis like that is magical and it's so unique. Um, yeah.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I I would love to I have never seen the extended editions. Haven't done I don't think really any behind the scenes viewing. But that is something I would gladly watch in a heartbeat just to understand better the like you're talking about how sequences are done, or even if they just talk about the overall process. Um, and I what this movie, like you're talking about, every actor does something different, and having this long-standing job
Mhm.
for three films back to back to back years. Um, and I was trying to think of anything else that came close to it. And I don't know. And it makes me wonder if that's what also makes it nostalgic for me, is knowing that it's this seems like a few and far between you have an experience where a movie is shot this way. It's released in theater one after the other the following year.
Mhm.
And you, I think you touched on it last time we were chatting, like you left the film, like you're like, I'll have to wait a year to like see what happens next.
Yeah.
So it was almost like with Lost, because we can always go back to Lost. Uh, like when it originally was broadcast, you had commercials, you had to wait at least a week for the next episode. Sometimes it was longer. And
Yeah.
so you had that kind of similar feel where you had this you had this fixed time that you knew to marinate on this film before you could dive into the next one. And I also think that kind of, you know, maybe helped the the passion for the movie because it's coming. Because how many times do
Yes,
we watch the movie and we think, God, I wonder if they're going to make another one? Um,
that is
and
true.
so maybe that helped heighten the overall experience for a film like this.
Yeah, because I think that's a good point that you make. Because I think when I went to see it for the first time, I think it was already out there that this was a three movie series, one released each Christmas. Happy Christmas to us, let me tell you. Um, and I think that that information was already out there. So we
I
are,
think so.
we go to see it and you're thinking, oh man, I don't want to wait a year, you know. But yeah, incredible, incredible and unique. Yeah, and I cannot really think of any other series that has done that. I was even thinking like Marvel would come out with at least a movie every year. I mean, I know James Bond there for a while was trying to come out with like a movie every year, um, or every other year type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but that's how you got your Euro knockoffs, because you couldn't fill the demand fast enough. It would be interesting to go and look and see if we had a lot of fantasy come out right after this, that was trying to fill that demand of people wanting more. And I would almost guess that we had, a flurry of um Lord of the Ring knockoffs and, wannabes not long after this, because it was huge
Yeah.
uh, when it came out.
Yeah, and even for earlier blockbusters, like,
Mhm.
whether you're thinking Star Wars, Indiana
Yeah.
Jones, Jurassic Park, you know, I don't know if there was ever a specific, this is definitely going to have a sequel coming, like while the film was still out. I don't know. Maybe with Star Wars, it was, there was more
I don't
story out there. I'm
know.
not sure, but um, I feel like having that information really just makes you kind of chomp at the bit a little bit more, knowing that you gotta
Yeah.
have to wait. So
Well, and that's a good point too about well, bringing up about Star Wars because I'm old enough where I saw the well, what now would be Star Wars number four, but at the time when I was seeing Star Wars, it was just Star Wars and being just absolutely changed after walking out of the theater and wanting to go and see the movie again, wanting that universe to be real, wanting to follow Luke Skywalker and his adventures and things like that. And at that time, that was 1977, and there was Starlog, there was I think there was one other magazine, but I was too young. I mean, I had a $1 allowance or something like that back then. Magazines were not something I was buying back then. So it's not even like you would know right away that, oh yeah, we're going to get a sequel to that.
yeah,
It was really like, you got to see it then. Because then the other thing is that, you couldn't have like on demand right away. You weren't going to have your DVD or at that time a VHS right away.
yeah,
Um, at that time, when the movie was gone, it was like not back again for like 7 years. I mean, it was really a long time. So you had to go to the movie. So the fact that as much as we're changed watching Fellowship of the Ring, um, at some point we were going to get to have the movie, to kind of get us through until we got to the next one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess until we get to our next part, we'll take a break and then we'll talk more Fellowship of the Ring. We'll be back soon. Hey everyone, it's Travis with Red Stream. Just want to say thank you for watching this video and just here to promote our channel and want to ask one thing. If you can like, comment, or subscribe, one of those things, that would be amazing. That's all I have, and we'll get back to the conversation. We are back. We have a special guest has stolen Michelle's chair.
He
Um,
did. I walked away for the break and came back, and it was like, yeah, that's my chair now, Mom. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting a little
uh,
tall. I still look
so
like I'm in the chair, though.
you do, you do.
Mm.
Um, so we're back to talk more Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. There's a couple of scenes I want to talk to you about. One, they're really good scenes, but I also like the way this film kind of tackles the dark and light,
Hmm.
darkness and light. And a couple of the scenes that um so first Aragorn and Eowyn when they are are they in I think they're in Rivendell with the elves and there's scenes together. There's almost like this glow
Hmm.
around them. And it almost like just heightens how the moment is all about them.
Hmm.
And um I love how they've kind of woven this love story into Lord of the Rings because it never has felt forced at all. It feels completely natural. Um, her choosing immortal life and, him almost being afraid that she's choosing that.
Hmm.
But, there's this glow about and which also comes back to when Frodo is sick and he initially sees her
Hmm.
in this white dress and a glow, but she's actually, when she kneels down next to him, she's in regular, I guess, attire to ride a horse with. So I don't know if the glow is specifically with her character or if it's just highlighting their relationship or her powers. Do you feel like that sequence with the two of them on the little bridge where they're holding hands, like,
Hmm.
do you feel like that's a really intimate scene? Do you feel like it's kind of hyper focused on them, and I almost like forget about why they're there?
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how that scene, uh, how you feel about that scene.
Um, I agree with you about the glow. So I'll address that first. I thought it was interesting how she did. It's almost like she had a soft focus, and I'm in not in a like um only her, because I think the other um Kate Blanchett's character also has a particular glow about her, and I'm wondering if that's kind of indicative of all the elves. I think the men did too.
Okay.
Uh, but I do think that when they're at the bridge, the fact that even though Aragon is a human, we've established that he's not just a regular human. He's an ancestor. Um, he is a what is he? He's a strider, so he's a hunter. There's um there's a particular presence about him. And then when they're together, I really got a sense like almost like Kesmet. Like they are meant to be together. Against all
Yeah.
odds, they are meant to be together, even though she's an elf, he's a human, she has, a very, very long life or an immortal life, whereas he will eventually grow old and die. Um, the fact that, you know, she wants to give up her immortality to have a life with him. I mean, that's something that we often see in stories, that a love that kind of is meant to be for a lifetime and possibly forever, depending on one's belief. But I was emotionally drawn in to almost this kind of tragic love story. Um, the fact that, um, well, they ultimately be able to be together given this incredible epic war that is going on between good and evil. Could they possibly have a normal life at some
Yeah.
point? Um, the fact that this is what she wants to give to him, um, of her own free will. There's just a real delicateness of the moment that just really pulls you in, and you do forget about everything else going on outside, of this moment. And I think that's what I like about the movie as a whole, the fact that you do have all these moments and you can kind of bring the little looking glass and look and kind of pinpoint into certain scenes that really are so powerful, and there's so many of them. That's why, we're on part two, uh, because there are so many great scenes.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna be honest. I wish that I was Erwin because I was like Viggo Mortensen, who I not even sure if I'd seen him in anything else before this. Maybe one or two things. I was like, oh wow, yes, I would totally give up immortality to be with this person who is flawed, imperfect. Um,
Incredible presence.
struggling, um, and yet has this presence, seems to have an a leadership ability. Obviously he has a destiny that you can just know is so important, is going to be, you know, his own journey that's going to be, I hate to keep using the word epic, but you know, he has a destiny. He has a path, and you do want to follow him, even though he doesn't want to be followed. And he
Yeah.
doesn't want to pick up the sword. And he doesn't, but I think it's more of a fear of what he has inside, the fear of what the ring might mean for him, what destiny might mean for him, what that path might mean for him.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the disappointment that he might bring, what he's not able to live up to if he doesn't follow that path. Um, to the point that that's why I feel like the love story is almost tragic, because he's not found his path, or he is finding his path. Whether that path will be ultimately with her or not,
Yeah.
we don't know. But if we can't be them, we want them to be together at some point. Um,
Yeah.
and the fact that there is this, what I like about this movie and what we see with this little vignettes is there's so much going on underneath the surface of what is being established in this first film. You have this love story, you have these friendships, you have all these other players that we haven't even met yet, and we don't meet until the second one. I think that's what's kind of crazy, how there is a theory in music where you've got a core, and it the experience kind of spirals out, so that you've got that main component, but it becomes elements of as it spirals out. And I feel like in a way that could describe, Fellowship of the Ring and the other movies that follow, that you have this core, and it's all these different themes that run, through the spiral as it spirals out. And I feel like the three movies do that as they spiral out, and we end up meeting all these other people as it continues, this,
Yeah.
this epic battle of good and evil, as it continues to spiral out and bring in more people. Um, that's kind of the experience I feel when I'm watching it.
It's a great
And
way to describe it. Because you're talking about, Aragon's like fear of what he might become or not live up to, and she sees his fear and saying that he is his, so she fully supports him, and she's like telling him like, you are not like your ancestor, you
yeah.
know, and so they're spiraling up. He's willing to die to protect the fellowship, even though he's afraid of failing. But you
Yeah.
have her believing in him. Gandalf told um, Eowyn's father, um, like, there's still hope in man. Like, there's one who could reclaim the throne of Gondor. And so that, like, as you describe the spiral, like there's belief in him, even though he might not believe in himself.
Hmm.
But still willing to put himself out there is kind of a testament to his character,
Hmm.
and why I think, like you're talking about earlier, he is so quintessential hero. Like, he is like someone that, yes, like you described, he has flaws, he has doubts, but it doesn't deter him from wanting to do the right thing. And having these people support him, and that dovetails into the second movie where you know, he has to kind of play he feels like he has to play almost a secondary role to the king. He's got to support that king, and um we'll talk about that movie maybe another time. But I just so that scene is one where, their relationship kind of you can permeates, like you feel like you just want more of it. And another scene I was thinking of with Darkness and Light is when they are decide to go to the mines and they
Mm-hmm.
approach the outer walls of this mountain and they can't get in. And there's just like this glowing arch
Mm-hmm.
with this Elvish phrase. Oh, by the way, I love that Aragon speaks Elvish. Like I just love that. Like there's no side notes. He talks with Eowyn, he talks with Legolas. I
Mm-hmm.
love that about his character. And I love that when we get to this door that's glowing white while everything else is kind of dark, the water's, somewhat stirring from Merry and Pippin throwing rocks in because of course they're throwing rocks in. Um,
Yeah.
and and it's Frodo who kind of realizes his riddle and asks what the Elvish word for friend is. And once Gandalf says it, the
Mm-hmm.
door opens. And that scene has a lot because you have Sam saying goodbye to his horse, the
No, yes.
Merry and Pippin being Merry and Pippin, the door opening. We have a sea creature that comes in. Well, once they realize that the mine is more of a tomb with all of the skeletons everywhere. Um, how, when you think of that scene, because there's so many different things going on in it, like I just every time I picture that scene, I just see that arch glow in my head. And for me, it's just quite so effective to highlight the entrance of the door that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't think of any other. I'm sure there's other movies that have done that. Um, but do you find that, it kind of makes sense that this fellowship has all of these moving parts and they always seem to find hiccups. And this is a hiccup where Gandalf can't open the door. Um, does this, I feel like this scene might be the most, like, I don't know what the right word is, that it's so telling of the group as a whole, where there's like a stalling point, um, and they just can't get it together to get through a door because they can't figure out a riddle. I don't know. I might be rambling here. I don't know if I'm making sense.
You are. I felt the same way. I mean, I think it is a great scene where it's that tell where yes, they are the fellowship. It's one of their tests where they do have to come together. And I think the fact that Gandalf can't figure out the riddle, he can't remember. Um, I like that it's a riddle because it's kind of a nod to the original Hobbit novel, and all the riddles that Bilbo comes across in his adventures. So I think it's kind of a nice nod. But it you immediately see an act of friendship. Sam doesn't want to give up his horse, and like Johnny on the spot, Aragon tells him, "Hey, I can't remember the name of the horse. It was Joe. I don't know. I don't. It seemed like it was like just a kind of a
Bill?
small. I don't know what the name of the horse was, but it was something that was kind of like a human name.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh well, Samwise, this would not be a good place. Your horse is going to know how to get back home.
Yeah.
And he really does try to be an emotional support to Samwise, knowing. I feel like this is the thing that that is also frustrating. We see all those good qualities in Aragon, but he doesn't seem to see them. And here's
Yeah.
another instance where he just immediately is like the big brother to all the hobbits, particularly Frodo, obviously, but also to Samwise. He wants to make sure that he is comforted to know that your horse is going to be okay. I know you're going to worry about your horse, but your horse is going to be okay. Your horse is going to get back. Now, we probably know that horse probably did not make it back, but you know, Aragon helps Samwise to let the horse go, because the horse can't go in the tomb with everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where I think as a leader, when you've got to be a friend and when you have to lead, when you give support and when you have to say, this is where you're going to have to listen to me,
Yeah.
type of thing. You have to find that balance. Um, but I do like that scene because again, you kind of got everybody's kind of got their own personalities going, but for them to be able to succeed, again, it shows that they have to be able to come together. And Frodo is the one that has the answers, so he
Yeah.
really is the key to that adventure ultimately, and he's the one that is in the center. So I do, and like you, I really love how the gate kind of glowed, and of course, the still black water behind them is like, yeah, not instilling a lot of confidence at what might be behind you. And of
Yeah.
course, Mary and Pippin, oh yeah, let's just drop a few rocks in there because hey, we don't know the answer to the riddle, so we're gonna do this over here.
Yeah. And obviously Aragorn in that moment like stops him like do not disturb the water.
Yeah.
And then we have obviously the massive tentacle creature. Legolas gets to show off his arrow flinging skills.
Yep, pretty
Um,
impressive. Hmm.
um, and if we continue a little bit into
Hmm.
the mines, I wonder, um, as they're making their way, I think Gandalf said it's like a 3 or 4 day journey through the mines. Um, and when they get to the big cavernous opening and he spreads some light and Gimli sees the throne room and he rushes in. So, do you blame Gimli more or Pippin more for Gandalf's death?
Oh, at that point, I was like, Pippin, damn it, why did you lean on the well? Why, dude? Just don't touch, you
Yeah.
know? Uh, no, it was bound to happen. I mean, but yeah, Pippin and Mary were not showing their value too much in this movie. And it is kind of a like, yeah, they're comic relief, but it's almost like how are they helping?
Hmm.
Are they kind of stalling out the process here to be successful? And you always got those kind of people that um, you know, are two left feet. And I feel like Pippin's kind of got two left feet, two left hands. And yeah, but I mean, honestly though, as much as we could say it's Pippin's fault, I think that irregardless, I think the orcs would have been alerted because, we know that um, they're being watched.
Yeah.
And they even say they feel like they're being watched. And yes, Gollum is following them, but you've also got other eyes. So I think, yeah, Pippin didn't help the situation, but um, it is what it is.
I had
So
to ask. I just,
yeah.
um, when you were talking earlier about how like the characters have had their like they have their each their own story arc. I mean, there's a drastic difference from the first to third film with like all the
Mhm.
characters, especially Merry and Pippin. But I guess
Yeah.
in this film, even Merry and Pippin, especially Pippin, he's he's the one who like, so I'm gonna join at the council. Where are we going? Um, touching the skeleton and falling in the well. Uh, but at the end of the day, they try to be their best for Frodo when they step out of cover to have the orcs chase them instead of Frodo. Um, so I
Which is
think,
a kind of a shocker, honestly,
yeah,
that through the entire film, they were not like aware of what the hell was going on. It was like this was just, oh, it's just another day in, Hobbit land. And then for them to step out, um, realizing kind of their place in this journey, and for them to do that, it was like, oh my God, they actually stepped up and did something right. Is
yeah,
kind of, and it just seemed like, and I'm not disparaging on them, but
yeah,
it just feels like all their missteps, this is the one that they made right, and they did it right. And it's almost like this is where like everybody came together, and yet they're all fighting, and they're all doing their thing. But that's when they were really a group, when it really did matter at that moment. I
yeah,
feel like everybody stepped up. Boromir had yet another test about the ring. Um, but I think it also led him to be, to have so much fight in him against the orcs by
yeah,
blowing the horn. Merry and Pippin stepping out from the bush to create a diversion. Um, Everybody was doing exactly what they needed to do in that moment. And I think that's the moment of the fellowship.
yeah. I would agree with that for sure. I do find it interesting that, you know, Merry and Pippin are like like you described, the mischief
Hmm.
duo. I think Merry is the one who realizes that who's leaving, and that's when they kind of step out and so I I wonder when they started creating this movie, was there a plan to have, like you describe it, like each character has their own
Hmm.
story arc? Because it seems like it's so intentional. Um, Legolas and Gimli, dwarves and elves don't
Hmm.
like each other. And by the end of the movie, when Aragorn says, "Hey, we're not going to abandon Merry and Pippin,"
Yeah.
and you can tell that they're both in agree, they're agreeing that yes,
Hmm.
we're going to stay strong, we're going to work together. And so building these moments where there is conflict at some point, or there's missteps, or carelessness,
Hmm.
eventually it culminates, like you said, into this one massive fight moment for the fellowship where they know that they have to do whatever they can. Now, obviously, I don't at that moment only Aragon knows that Frodo's leaving.
Hmm.
But they realize the hillside is swarming with orcs. We've got to fight and figure out how to stop them from getting to Frodo.
Hmm.
Um, and I'd wonder if when you were watching that scene play out, was there any inkling? I think we touched on this scene last time. Did you have any inkling that someone from the Fellowship, I mean, obviously at this point Gandalf has already fallen, uh, but did you have an inkling that there was someone else was going to die too? I I don't think I thought that
Yeah, I don't
until I
think
saw
I
the
did
orc with the
either.
bow and arrow.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, I honestly thought that Boromir like saw the air and like I would like to think that he hit a point where he was able to resist the call of the ring. Uh, but in hindsight, um, maybe not, and maybe that's why he had to die. But honestly, going into that battle, I was not thinking, one, that Boromir was going to die, Saint Sebastian type death, pretty horrific. Um, and I didn't, two, think that everybody was going to split. The movie is Fellowship of the Ring,
Yeah.
and Fellowship of the Ring includes all these people, and yet there is no fellowship by the end of the movie. They have
Yeah.
all gone in different directions. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Where's the fellowship? Because everybody has scattered to the winds. Um, and as we all know in horror films, that when you start separating out, it's easier to pick them off.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I honestly, I didn't think anybody else was going to die, and I honestly didn't think that each member of the fellowship was going to scatter to different parts.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't see, you know, Pippin and Merry being taken by the orcs. I mean, God, I would have thought they would have just killed them. But the fact is, they they were told don't harm the hobbits. Well,
Yeah.
which hobbit? There's four, so they didn't harm a hobbit. But no, was not did not at all see how the end of the movie was going to come out.
Yeah. When Boromir came to the aid of Merry and Pippin, I was like, yes. That's, I remember being like so pumped.
Mhm.
Um, and when he was blowing the horn and Legolas and Aragorn heard them and they were rushing to try to get him, but there's tons of orcs between them. I was like, okay, they're gonna get to him. They're gonna team up. And then once I
Yep.
saw that massive orc with the bow and arrow, I was like, oh crap. Like you just got
Yeah.
that bad feeling in the pit of your stomach, like, oh no. Like, oh, the
Yeah.
ability of providing such a powerful emotion for a character who just betrayed Frodo. Like he
Mhm.
just did that. He's obviously mortified by what he has done. And then he comes back to try to redeem himself, which I do think he does.
Yeah.
Um, I
Oh
just
yeah.
think it's incredible to have such a for him. Like you're saying, you have this wild story arc for him in
Hmm.
this film. Um, and that ends with him thinking he's a traitor, but Aragorn's telling him, no, you fought bravely, you got your honor back, and I'll do what I can to save our people. And it gives him almost like a sense of peace before he dies. And that scene gets me every time. Like, and the expression on Legolas's face when he comes and sees the aftermath of those arrows sticking out of Boromir,
Oh,
it's crushing.
it is. It is crushing, and yeah. And I think that's that that death scene is pivotal for Aragon because that gives him kind of the kick in the butt that he needs in order to start realizing that his destiny is a particular direction. And he does need to head in that direction.
Yeah.
The fact that, they were committed to each other, even though there are differences. And this is one thing that I really like about it. Even though they had differences, that they could still fight together. They could still find um, a common footing between them. And if anything, it's like death came too soon, you know? Too bad they couldn't have been together fighting side by side down the road.
Yeah,
Because of course, when we're watching this, we have no idea what's coming, in the second movie and the third movie. Um, just how impressive all we thought that was epic. Wait till you see two and three, you know.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I think the only time we see them fighting together, I guess, is in the mines, Boromir and Aragorn. But yeah, you're right. It's the kick in the pants for him to kind of make a promise to him that he'll do what he can to make sure Gondor doesn't fall.
Yeah.
Um, and I again, I love movies that and TV shows that make me feel so connected to the characters. We get that with Lost. You get it with a film like this. And I think that's what makes storytelling so important. Um, because yes, we watch movies for enjoyment and a
Mhm.
break from reality, like having these chats. But at the end of the day, it's also important to see characters doing the right thing, even if they mess up.
Yep.
Like, and I think that's always going to be relevant. And man, we've burned through another video for
We
Lord of the Rings.
have.
So there will definitely be a part three for our chat for the 25th year anniversary for Fellowship of the Ring, where we'll talk all about the characters.
Yep.
Um, and is there anything else that you want to touch on before we pop off here?
No, I think I honestly believe that when we get into talking about the various characters, I think even more scenes will come out that really spotlight each character. So I'm anxious to, I mean, I don't know that we can necessarily pick a favorite. I mean, I guess we could, but um, I think it's more of a case of just honoring this most unique film in a series in this trilogy, and honoring all that it has, scenes and characters. So I'm not sure I'm going to be walking in with, okay, this is my favorite character.
Yeah,
But definitely hope that people will put down in the comment section some of their favorite scenes. Let us know. We'd love to hear how this movie impacted you 25 years ago.
yeah,
And I'm already thinking like, oh, I think we're gonna have to do next year the second movie and do a 25th anniversary of the next. Yeah, yeah. That's why we're best buds, right?
absolutely. I was thinking the exact same thing.
No, just
Um,
look forward to talking about characters next time, and kind of digging into each character and their stories and what they're bringing to the larger picture. So,
yeah. Well, everyone, thank you for sticking around for another part of our Lord of the Rings chat. We will be back with another part. If you have the time, please like and subscribe. Like Michelle said, share comments about, do you have some favorite scenes? Do you rank the trilogy at all? How would you rank the trilogy? Put that in the comments.
mhm.
And I guess until next time, we'll see everyone on the flip side.